Hey there, I'm Judge James. Welcome to Living for Crits, and I'm coming to you all today with something a little different. First off, by myself, which does happen occasionally, so don't be alarmed. Judge Evie is on a trip with my wife to Ohio, and that's exciting. All the way to Toledo, to Waterville, actually, for a wedding with our cousin. So that's going to be cool for them. But while they're gone, I'm here, and I can talk about whatever I want. And for new viewers, if you hear, two things for new viewers. Number one, if you hear me call myself Judge James or Judge Evie, that's because, which you may or may not know, I'm a Dungeon Crawl Classics fanatic, and DCC GMs tend to refer to themselves as judges because we have enormous egos. And that's just how that works. I have no law degree or any kind of legal background or whatnot, but so that's I apologize now for that. The other thing I'm going to apologize to you for is the hair. This is as good as the hair is going to get. All right. And I know regular viewers, this is actually pretty well kept for regular viewers. But I wanted to talk today about a game that's not Dungeon Crawl Classics. And there's a good reason why, because like frickin' variety. That's why. Ultimately, I wanted to talk about what ways look better. Fantasy Age over here. Fantasy Age. There we go. Because I'm starting a new Fantasy Age campaign later this week. And again, some of you might not know this. This is my third Fantasy Age campaign in the last year. And this is an awesome game. And this video is pretty much about why I love this game and why you should love this game too, or at least give it a shot, especially if you're looking for something that's a fantasy role-playing game and you don't want to go with like the big elephant in the room, which everyone knows is Dungeon Crawl Classics, or if you don't want to go with any other dragon type game, you want to try something different, something innovative, something that's going to feel maybe more fun, without limiting your options of play. And so we're going to talk about this a little bit. So this is a game that I ran 10 sessions of a campaign for last year with my two eldest kids and their friends online in the middle of the pandemic. We ran a game in a setting that I created, a very Japanese role-playing game inspired setting, so like think Final Fantasy or I guess Monster Hunter, stuff like that. It was very inspired by all of that. And my son Cooper, his character Ember, the fox beast folk, which I've talked about on on Twitter a lot. I've also shared a bit on the show here. Cooper's character Ember, they're still going. Ember the Rogue is still going strong in Fantasy Age. We just played a couple weeks ago. I've talked about Fantasy Age before on this channel. I will post a link below to the original kickoff video for Fantasy Age where Judge Evie talked about her character in that game. But I really wanted to spend some time talking about a really phenomenal system and series of books, especially ahead of the fact that, later this year, I believe it's being hinted at a new Fantasy Age update, edition, whatever you want to call it's coming out. This is the basic rulebook. So I don't know if they're going to call it Fantasy Age Advanced. And there Ridley is. He's panting. If Chris Pramis, who designed it, is listening, my golden doodle pants for this book. I don't know if it's a good thing or not. But anyway, I want to chat about it. All right. So what is it? What is this game if you don't know? Hey, look, no graphics needed. I can just hold stuff up to the camera. That's all the graphics needed. Fantasy Age is a tabletop role-playing game designed by Chris Pramis and published by Green Ronin Publishing. And you probably have run into this game in some way, shape, or form. Remember way back in the old days, way back like in 2015 and 16, when Will Wheaton was on tabletop, there was a video for Dragon Age that came out. So Dragon Age was, one of the original game. I think the original game for that used the Age system, the adventure game engine. And Dragon Age came out, a game designed around the video game series of the same title. And this was I think a big hit. It was running up against D&D at the time, but offered a fun, fast alternative while still giving a great fantasy feel. All right. So but if you remember, so on tabletop they had a they had a 2-session series of Dragon Age, and then a bit down the line they did the Titan's Grave books. I don't own Titan's Grave. I have the PDF for it, but I own the PDF for it, but I don't own the book itself. I do want to get a copy of it at some point. But Titan's Grave was a campaign, an actual play campaign. One of the few that I've watched, because I typically don't watch actual plays, nor do I record them, for a myriad of reasons, but that don't need to be discussed today. But so you've probably heard of the game in some way, shape, or form, and Fantasy Age came out like a year later. I believe it was released in at Gen Con 2015. I was there when it was released. I played it when it was released. And other games that use the age system. So you have Dragon Age, and I have since purchased. I have 2 of these actually. This one's a little bit damaged. This is the heavier Dragon Age like core rulebook. So this is the one that's, and obviously it's a trash truck that's gonna pull up, because the dumpster company's like, hey, he's filming a video. We're gonna show up and do stuff. Let's listen. Do they want to play Fantasy Age? They don't. They're not into it. I'm gonna keep going. So you have Dragon Age here, which is this is the full rulebook for Dragon Age, and this came out after there were 3 box sets, and then they put everything into a core book. So you got this. You've got Blue Rose, which is a romantic fantasy game of romantic fantasy. I'm not the best person to describe this stuff. I heard if you've read books like by Mercedes Lackey, it's in that genre. I've seen the book. They're gorgeous. Not sure if it's something I would run, but I would definitely try it at some point. My Modern Age book is downstairs. I didn't bring it upstairs, as is my Expanse RPG book. I don't know why I didn't bring the Expanse up here, because the Expanse book is amazing, and that came out, I want to think, at the last Gen Con, the last Gen Con in person, so I think 2019. What year is it? I can't remember. But I have that downstairs and haven't played that yet. But there's a lot of games that you may or may not know use the age system. And the basics of how the system works is you need 3 dice, 3d6. And for everything you're doing, you're rolling, for actions, you're rolling 3d6. And you want to make sure that one is a different color. So here you go. There's 1. So you have 3 dice, okay? And you roll 3d6 for your action. So it's going to be a bit of a bell curve. But what sets the game apart from other games using 3d6 for actions is that whenever doubles are rolled, so let's say you rolled, 2 5s. I don't know why it's important for me to show you the 5s, but why not? Let's say you rolled 2 5s and a 1, okay? Whatever the result of this different colored die, called the stunt die, or maybe the dragon die. It's the dragon die in Dragon Age, but it's the stunt die in Fantasy Age. Whatever the result is on this die, if any of the dice roll doubles, whether it's the stunt die and one of these die roll doubles, or it's just the 2 other dice, or whatever the combination is, if they roll doubles, whatever the value of the stunt die is, you gain those amount of points in stunt points in that you can spend on the action, which there's a bunch of charts that say how you can spend the points. And what this does is this kind of interlaces a system of like high flying action and crazy heroism and just action movies in general, and really unique experiences into the dice mechanic, the core dice mechanic of the game, without requiring endless feats and edges and meta magic feats and all that kind of crap. Like, for instance, let's say that your character is like, you're a dwarf warrior and you're running around and you're making your attack roll and your dice come up 5, 5, 3. Well, you stunted because you've got the 2 5s and the 3 is on your stunt die, and you refer to the chart. You have a bunch of actions you can spend with your stunt points. And you can say, you know what? I'm going to do a lightning attack because I have 3 stunt points, and I'm going to choose to make a second attack roll against that target. And you just do it. All right? So, boom. No need to take a feat for that. No need to, it's just in the mechanics. And they have it for, combat stunts, for spell stunts, for exploration stunts, and for role-playing stunts. And I believe the other books have other options as well. So the characters in this game are built around a series of races and backgrounds as like their backstory, and then they have one of three classes. So you would be a you could be a noble elf, and your class you'd be a warrior or noble elf, mage, or however you want to have. You can pick what you want to be, and while there's only three classes, as time goes on, you can take different talents and specializations to mold the character in any way you see fit, to be as broad and diverse as you'd like, or to be as crazy focused as you want. If you would like that that elven noble who's a warrior to become like a duelist over time, to be someone who's specialized in like being crazy accurate with their fighting and whatnot, and to be light and nimble on their feet, that's fine. If you want to have a knight in heavy armor, bounding about with sword and shield, just taking people down, also fine. But if you want to have that knight and have them over time, learn some alchemy so they could lob grenades of acid on people, you can do that too. And that's one of the cool things with this system is you can customize your character and grow the character over time. And while other games do this, I do feel that that Fantasy Age does it with a simplicity, a beauty, if you will, that allows you to do it seamlessly and without a lot of work. It just kind of rolls off the finger, or off the tongue. Never mind. I would not call this system rules light. I think I did a few times in the past, but I also wouldn't call it rules heavy. This is let's just call it a rules just right system. Just enough rules to make you feel like you've got a lot of option depth, but not so many that you feel crushed. As I like to say, my 10-year-old son can play this game. Okay, I wouldn't say he's a master of it, but he can play it. All right. So if he can figure out the rules and the basics of the rules, then pretty much anyone can. It doesn't make it accessible for kids for that reason, though. I will say that. If you like to game with your kids, this is a really good system for that. It's going to be weird this week playing Fantasy Age. Our Wednesday night Alternity game is shifted to Fantasy Age now. Our Alternity game wrapped up, 2 nights ago. I don't remember what day it is. I'm on vacation, so I can't remember which day it is. It wrapped up 2 nights ago on Wednesday, and we shifted to Fantasy Age. And what's going to be weird is I've never played Fantasy Age with adults outside my wife, because Jen will sit in. She is a gnome mage. She'll play with Cooper occasionally as his support character. So I got into this game originally through Dragon Age, which is interesting because I've only played Dragon Age twice, and both times were with my good friend Mark Plord, my Glowburn co-host, and I played it twice in 2015. We were doing an experiment of running the same characters through 4 different systems. So we started with basic fantasy RPG, we moved on to DCC RPG, moved on to Savage Worlds, and then the Cypher system, and it was the same characters through each game. And then Mark, because he was experienced with Dragon Age, we took those same characters and converted them to the Age system, the Dragon Age system, and played them in that. And I took a back seat for that as a player. And then a few months later at Gen Con 2015, both Jen and I got to play with Mark when he ran Fantasy Age when it debuted. And he ran a few games for us at the convention. Had a really good time. He set them in Freeport, which is another setting designed by Chris Pramus. And you can find that on the Green Ronin site as well. Now, unfortunately, the years between 2015 and 2018 were kind of busy. Or 2018, 2019? Whenever. They were busy years, and I kind of, I did not play any Age stuff between that period, sadly. I was very close to running a Dragon Age campaign in 2018, but we eventually we moved on to decide we're going to run something more modern, and we ended up playing East Texas University, which is kind of a shame, because now that Modern Age is out, I think we would have given it a shot, and we still might. I know Evie's love is still very strongly in the Criminal Minds aspect. So there still is that idea of me running a crime drama game for her, which may have to happen. When 2020 rolled around, I really wanted to try some new RPGs that I had never played before or didn't play much, and play more of them. So I was playing Shadow of the Demon Lord, and I played Fantasy Age. I tried Swords of the Serpentine. I tried Ryutama. I wanted to try more games last year, and Fantasy Age clicked with me For a myriad of reasons I'm going to go into in a second, and that's twice I've used myriad, I think. So I think I fumble. I don't like overusing words like that. Uh, but this is a bucket list of games I wanted to try, and it became a multi-campaign game. And now again, third campaign kicking off here shortly with grown-ups. It's going to be fun to see how that pans out. So I wanted to go over reasons that I love Fantasy Age, and I'm going to say love because I've grown to love this game over the last year, and why I think you might like Fantasy Age. And the first reason is the rules. They're clear, they're concise, they're easy to modify on the fly, and they're super adaptable. As if, for instance, it's not hard making a talent. So when our JRPG inspired Fantasy Age game campaign last summer was starting to shift towards them becoming sky pirates, it was not hard to let the one character who was playing a rogue become a dragon master and have this dragon master talent, and we would evolve into a specialization begin where their character would eventually gain a little dragon familiar, and over time would grow and be something they could ride. It was really easy to put together, and it was very easy to balance with other things at the table. The stunt mechanic, I have to say, stands out as one of my favorite tabletop RPG mechanics of all time, which is, for a game I have not played as much as I would have liked at this point in my gaming career, I think it's saying something. It does everything that the Dungeon Crawl Classics Warrior die does, but it augments it to allow every character to have that option of doing something fantastic or phenomenal on their turn. Yes, you can roll a 15 and hit a target in any game, but in this game, going off the stunt list, you could do that, then do a threatening pose that causes the target to let's see here. Allows you to intimidate a target. If you win, they must attack you in some way to come after you. So you can threaten and force someone to come after you, like, get away from him, come to me. And you can do multiple stunts. If you get 6 stunt points, you can combine them. You can do a lightning attack for the 3 stunt points. You can threaten for 2 stunt points and make the targets come after you next. And then you could do a stunt called Skirmish that lets you move. You can move a bit to give yourself some extra room, maybe because you're having one of your friends get in the way and you have a spear and attack over their head or something crazy. It creates a story. The dice create a story. There are other games that do this. I know that you could say, well, hey, you could do these with the dice from Edge of the Empire, and that's great. But when I see Edge of the Empire dice, my eyes go cross-eyed. And there's Ridley. Ridley, do you want to come say something? Come here for a second. What do you want to say about Fantasy Age? Anything? He has no words. He agrees, by the way. He agrees in everything I'm saying. So anyway, where was I? Now his head's on my lap. This is great. So I'm stuck petting him. I think character generation in this game can be lightning fast, where you just fly through it, or you can be incredibly thoughtful and take a lot of time building your perfect character. And it can be as random as you want. If you like to play games where you have a completely random character, you don't know who you're playing at the table, you can do that in here. There's a mechanic for rolling up your stats, and then you can roll your background. You'd have to pick your race, but there's no reason why you couldn't make that random too. You could just number, 1 is human, 2 is orc, 3 is elf, so on and so forth, depending on the companion adds some races. You can roll it at random that way and have no idea what you're coming out with. And that can be really fun for like a one-shot or, a campaign that you're setting up that, you want to try something different and haven't played that way in a long time. You can do it whichever way you want to do it, as long as your game approves, right? Right. The books themselves, I'm going to stop petting him and he's going to be upset here. Can we see him? There he is. Look at that. What do you think? This should be the cover shot, huh, Ridley? No. He's very upset that my wife and that Evie left. So he's very sad that now he's stuck in this room talking with me here. The books themselves are incredibly well built. This is my second copy that I own myself. I'll say that because this is my 8th copy I've purchased. The books are fairly inexpensive. The core books are $29.95 for the base rulebook, which me and a little cheaper on Amazon, which means that I've purchased 2 copies for us here in the house. I've purchased copies for all of Eli and Evie's friends that were playing with us last summer. And I have 2 spare copies downstairs. So when Cooper's friends start playing with us, which he wants to do in the same universe his character's in, I can give them copies of the game. So for young players, the price point is low. And you can start with the 1 book. You can run a full game with this 1 book. So it's not that heavy, not that big, not that dense, very easy to read, very well laid out. And for a beginning role player, the buy-in is relatively low. And there's our expansion books I'll get into in a second. But they're very well built. I mean, books are very solid. And I've never had an issue with pages falling out. I did have an issue with the Dragon Age book. If you saw the picture earlier, you may see that the cover is broken and stuff. And I had to tape it. I dropped this book from about 6 feet. Onto the floor, and it hit at the wrong angle, and I could hear it tear. But I've taped the sucker back together again, and then it gave me an excuse to buy another copy of it. The product line itself is really fantastic. They have done a great job. Green Ronin's done a great job of putting out enough books that you have options without putting out so much splat that you feel overwhelmed. So you have the base rulebook, which is going to cover, the 3 character classes, talents and specializations for those classes. There are other reviews online far better than my review. My review is probably sucking so far, but I'm going to keep going because that's my commitment. But this book's going to get you going if you want to see more options for your characters and artifacts and stuff like that. There is a companion. I personally think if you're going to own 3 books, you've got your base rulebook, your companion, and then there's a bestiary. You could say it's kind of like having the DMG Player's Handbook and Monster Manual, but it's a little different how you have it. But the nice thing with the companion is it offers a few more character races. It doesn't change that 3-class system, which I like, but it does offer some more specializations and some more backgrounds. You can flesh your characters out more with this book, and more spells because you got to have more spells. So I did show the bestiary. Here is the bestiary. As you can see, most of these books for Fantasy Age line about the same density. Now there's another beeping. About 140 pages, 150 pages, something like that. The bestiary for this game is absolutely wonderful for the reason that it does not rush the monsters at you without focusing on them. It gives you great background and detail for each monster you're going to get in here, and gives you ways and reasons to use that monster. So when you go into the bestiary, and I'm going to pick one I've used at length here, which is the where are they at? Now I can't find it. I have it marked off. That's not it. The Bakwani, which I believe are like Cthulhu-esque kind of creature here. So, you've got your basic stats for the creature over here. You have what kind of special qualities they have, and it's in a very simple format. Simple stat block. The way I used to like to see the D&D 4E stat blocks. It's why I liked 4E more than 3rd edition. As a GM, it was easier to run because the stat blocks were concise. They're concise here too. So why 2 pages for the monster? Well, because first it gives you options of different options to add to the monster to make them different. Like these Bakwani, maybe you find a fire Bakwani that does something different, or a lightning Bakwani. They're insects from the stars. It has some hooks on how to add the monster to your game and what you could do to feature an adventure around them. So for my game, I had them, they crashed to the planet, the overworld as we called it. They crashed to the overworld from a meteor. They erupted out and they tried to take over a goblin village, and the party had to assist the goblins. But I like these details. It makes this a fun and interesting monster bestiary to read. Where oftentimes that's not a book. That's a book I'm going to skim. I have read significant pieces of this book. The other benefit to this book is it doesn't just bring you the D&D monsters. There's so many of these books that you open it up and it's like, oh, okay, yeah, it's a demon in this book, a demon in that book. You have to have a demon. Boom, boom. Now, yeah, are there demons in here? Sure. There's a demon lord in here. There's ogres in here. You have a lot of your typical monsters you'd see in fantasy RPGs, but they have a lot of other different things too. Gatorman. I think the Bakwani were pretty cool. I like that they add, some, where is it out here? Some things I've never seen before. Here's a walking crystal creature. Do other games have similar things? Yeah, but it's kind of nice to see them in a fresh approach, and really nice to see them with these adventure hooks included in them. So Bestiary is a great find. I think you'll notice as I'm pulling past the books, the cover art is awesome. I really do want to get a copy of the cover to the main core book, and because I always feel that I need to throw some love to the artists. The cover art is Svetoslav Petrov, who I believe also did the cover for Shadow of the Demon Lord. So it's kind of cool that the two games I played the most last year that weren't DCC were both by the same artist. Very different feel from the DCC art, usually done by Kovacs or Pogue. But I love this style of art. It's gritty. It's got great use of color, but it makes these books stand out. I want this cover on my wall. Another great book in their product line is, I think it's the newest one they have out. It's Lairs. I'm trying to remember. There was a D&D 4th edition book that had just a series of three room dungeons. I think it was dungeon. I think it was Dungeon Delve. And you had these encounters that you could just run a short adventure off of. And if you didn't have a lot of time and wanted a real quick way to run adventure, that did it for you. This is like a more fleshed out, detailed version of that. Lairs gives you a quite a few new monsters and creatures and minions and all kinds of stuff, but the locales in which the adventure is taking place. So like the very first one, the one we use, the Valley of the Titans, it gives you a whole storyline about what's happening in this valley, who the players are, who the character, the NPCs are, what the threats are. It's designed to be a low threat area, locale, so you could bring starter characters there. And what Lairs does is it gives you cool places to put inside your modules or your campaigns, and cool places to set your modules, your adventures. But it also, if you're a new GM and you don't, have never run a game before, or you just want to say, I want to run a game, I'm going to buy Lairs, and I'm just going to start my game in the very beginning. I'm going to open this sucker up. I'm going to start in the valley. This is what we're going to have. We're going to have my first campaign. We're just going to start right in the valley, and the Valley of Whispering Titans, and I'll worry about towns and villages later. You can do that. So, and again, decent price point, easy to pick up, beautiful art, easy to read, great layout. The final book I want to cover here, is just another product I want to discuss here in a second, the GM screen, which is awesome, is the Campaign Builder's Guide. Now, I read this last year cover to cover when I was doing a kind of a self-help project. I wanted to read quite a few GM help books. So I read all of Your Best Game Ever by Monte Cook Games. I read cover to cover of How to Write Adventure Modules That Don't Suck by Goodman Games, and I read the Campaign Builder's Guide by Green Ronin. And this book had contributors were Gary Asselford, Walt Chichanowski, Rachel Cruz, Steve Kenson, Matt Miller, and Jamie Wood. I may have butchered some of those names, and I apologize. This book is, think of it as kind of a GM self-help book, as well as a game master's guide, as well as just a great guide for developing the art of being a role-playing game master. I've been doing this for, I think this year I've been doing this for almost 30 years. I just turned 42. So about 30 years. I still found a lot of great, interesting, valuable tools in here. And it's not just prose. It's not just essays. It gives you some feedback on, let's say you want to add more Fantasy Age to your Dragon Age, or convert a Dragon Age character or monster over to Fantasy Age. Since there are some differences in the age systems themselves, that book helps you do it. The last tool I want to talk about here is the GM screen itself. And this is this is the screen, it's a great 3-part screen. I don't like really complicated GM screens. This is my preferred size of GM screen, actually. You know, there's portrait, and then there's whatever this one is. Why can't I talk today? The flat one, the flat thing. There's the portrait version and the flat version, and I like this height. So this features on the one side essentially all of the ability focuses that you have to worry about, what ability tests, how they work, the stunts and the most basic stunts, weapon information, all the basics you need as a good GM is to have it right then and there. But even better, the book comes with a bunch of these handouts that you can give your players, and I usually have these out on the table for the players. One lists all the differences between major actions and minor actions and move actions and variable actions and all the foci, and the other is all the stunts. So it's like a player-facing player screen, but it's not a screen because you don't. I guess you could hold it like a screen if you have really, really wily players that want to hide behind it. But these are awesome, and they're very durable. So I love having these on the table. I would love for a way to buy more of these. I may just buy another screen just to have these. Although for every system of theirs, whether it's Dragon Age or Expanse, when you buy their screen, they give you 4 of these, 2 of the stunt cards and 2 of the action cards. And for new players, this is just really nice to have it in front of them, because some of the stuff in the game, I said it's not rules light. There are some mechanics, stunts, that take a little while getting used to in the beginning, and having those cards is great. In the other games they have, like I said, there's Dragon Age, there is Modern Age, there is the Expanse, and then there's Blue Rose. So if you want to play one of those games, you do not need to have the Fantasy Age core book, okay? So I should note that now. If you're going to play Dragon Age, the rules are a little different. It still runs off a couple modifications of the system. Fantasy Age kind of tightened a few of the rules. Not that Dragon Age can't be fun and tight and fast, all that stuff, but there are some modifications to the game to make it more like, Thetis and Ferelden and all that stuff. But Modern Age takes away classes and makes the game all talent based. The Expanse takes away classes, and it adds more ways for background, more uses for talents, and it also includes gets away health, hit points, and uses like a wound system. And it adds a cool system called churn, which means that as time goes on, like certain actions and misfortunes can happen to you. It's a really cool system. Blue Rose I have the least amount of experience with. I don't own it, but having flipped through it, it does keep the class system of Fantasy Age. But it's its own system. So if you want to try Blue Rose, just get the core book. So I think it's enough. I've broken past. So I wanted to have to be a half an hour introduction to the game for those who have never tried it. And I know that advanced new edition, expanded edition version of Fantasy Age is coming out, I believe, later this year, or it's being hinted at, whether it's being kickstarted or not. They've got my money at this point, so I'm all in when that comes out. But I do think that with me playing this game more, you'll probably see some more content on Living for Crits for Fantasy Age, which could be cool. So if any of you have played Fantasy Age or Dragon Age or Blue Rose or Expanse or whatever, and you have some cool feedback or stories from your games or tips for someone who's like, I still have only run just under 20 sessions of the system, I'd love to hear them. I'd love to hear places, places to find more information. I have listened to the Wonders of Thetis podcast. I think they may have changed their name, be more Fantasy Age focused now, but that was a great podcast, and I still listen to that from time to time. My podcasting is not so great on the listen side because I'm not driving in traffic as much at the moment as I used to. So I used to sit in traffic a lot, but right now I can just zoom wherever I want. But yeah. So, I will catch you all on Sunday with Judge Evie again, and we can hear about her trip to Ohio or whatnot, or just, we'll probably talk gaming. That's what we do. But if you enjoyed the video, please like, comment, subscribe, share with a friend, give us some stories about your gaming, and I hope you have a fantastic weekend. It's gorgeous here in the Philly area. I hope it's gorgeous wherever you are as well. Take care and have a great day.